you can start to account what you value in this data.
I would say that the unit of account and the indexing is actually the same thing. The index is the counting of a very specific aspect of the underlying information, which is the information describes the performativity of these social forms. Basically, the activity is encoded in this memory that you spoke about. This memory is one of actions, state transitions, interactions among agents. Those can be measured, they can be counted, and these indexes that measure those performances can be created from that collective information. And then they can be utilized to represent the value that is being created, to measure.
So how does that work? So this is what I've been thinking and struggling to think also is really how does it differ from the exchange of commodities or kind of a trading of commodities, because in fact what is happening here is that it's the organization, it's the network information derivative, which is organization, and they are trading it's like immanent, that they're trading directly to each other. So basically after you've created the index, the derivative, then they relate to each other.
Yeah. So the index is the first part, right? So is what allows you to value to be visible, to be measured, to be quantified. But then we need to utilize that to give access to an underlying value. It could be information, knowledge, content. So the indexing is a way of valuing the underlying, the information. So when we couple this together, what we end up is with a pricing for information as a derivative, access as a derivative. So it could be something that we're familiar with, such as property, which is exclusive access control, but it can be much more nuanced and modulated, like access to information or access to computation or access to organization, access to experience. Together, these derivatives, now the derivative form, that which holds the access, they can be traded against each other. Now the next question is one of commensurality. How do you transform one into each other? And this is where the grammar of trade is so useful. So I have access to a particular form of value, and because I'm part of its production, and then you have access to another form of value because you're part of its production and its evaluation. At some stage, we want to give access to each other, but how do we know how much access of this for how much access of that? And this is where the subjectivity of the collective comes into place. This is a place of market making. This is the place where the same way commodities can trade against each other or against a currency, or the same way like in Forex, currency can trade against each other. Now we can also, now that we have these forms of that give access to different underlyings, now they can start trading with each other.
Yeah.
And to increase the liquidity of these forms, we can leverage on this informational infrastructure and create, for instance, trading units that allows us to measure these abstract derivatives, these abstract value forms, against not only each other, but against a more stable unit. A stable unit, that means a unit of trade, a unit that is only saying how much of this is worth how much of that, without having to measure all the different things that are in the network. So what we allow these things is to be measured into with a shared reference frame. So this unit of trade becomes a shared unit of value that can be utilized as a shared reference among all these forms. It's not commodity based, it's not an asset in itself, it's just basically pure information on the world as perceived from the agents that are expressing these offers, this much of this for that much of that, so they can become exchangeable for each other, and the offers can be matched, rather than hope to the economic agents to, like in Forex, right, and in a marketplace with possibly thousands or even millions of different value forms, like the ones where the scape that we are opening, we are facilitating all of this to be measured with the same unit, and then allow them to exchange without money. Money as an abstraction of measurement becomes purely informational.
Yeah, so then this we know already from the derivatives trade we've understood that in fact derivatives they could have already traded directly against each other without need to go through the dollar or any fiat currency.
It's pure accounting then. Yeah. So the currency is just a value reference frame.
Yeah. So what do you mean by that? That it's a pure value reference frame?
It doesn't. There's no issuer. No one issues these units, or the same will be valid. Everyone does. So if I say instead of saying one Jorge token for 5 Akseli tokens, I say I say one Jorge token for 100 units, and then you say 5 Akseli tokens for 500 units, and these units become our shared reference frame. So then we can communicate with each other. This unit becomes our trading unit. It's not measuring anything in a specific, just relative value as expressed by the authors. So it just allows us to share a reference frame.
Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. What exactly allows us to share the reference frame? What are the conditions? What needs to happen?
Okay, so we have to have access to the same information. Basically, all of us have to have access to the same offer queue. We have to have access to a matching algorithm. We need to be able to trust that the matching algorithm for our offers is going to be reliably executed. It cannot be corrupted. And that when we mean 1 unit and you say 1 unit equals 1 unit. There is no possibility for fluctuation.
How does organization differ from exchange?
From exchange?
Yes.
I don't understand the question.